day 31 of my 40-day spring detox, and today I'm going to be talking about the power of knowing who you are. So stay tuned. My name is Marise Tourigny, and I decided to undertake a 40-day spring detox, and today I'm on day 31, and I have to say, I look forward to coming to the end. I have 9 days left. I have the intention of doing 3 days of juicing and 3 days of water fast to close it off, but I'm finding it difficult when I come to my lunchtime, time to eat. I want to eat. I'm okay once I eat. I could go through the whole day, but when it's time to eat, I'm happy to eat. And so I can't imagine what it's going to be like to go through 6 days of not having any food. So we'll see how that goes. I know when I set my mind to something, I could be very strict that way, but I'll keep you posted for sure. And when it comes to my sensations, I have to say, I shared a few episodes ago that I was dealing with some heat in my body, and I didn't know whether it was because my metabolism needed to boost to convert the energy from fat to utilize the energy, or if it was my perimenopause symptoms of having a lot of heat in my body. But it's happening every day. And sometimes, some days I've tracked it every half an hour. I'm going through hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. So I am dealing with that. And some days I just have a drain of energy and I need to go have a nap for 20 minutes to shake it off and continue. And I heard someone speak about ascension symptoms, and she described it exactly like I'm feeling, which is dealing with heat and cold, dealing with pressure at the third eye, pressure at the crown, and what else did she say? Oh, and fatigue, and having to deal with the fatigue. And the conclusion is exactly what I'm doing, is be with the sensations as they arise. So, every time I get into a symptom, I just ask it, like, what are you here to share with me? And just not making a big deal of it, just dealing with it. If I feel tired, I go nap it off and I come back. So if you're experiencing anything like that as well, I would suggest just being with the emotion, being with the sensation, and just asking, why is it arising? What message does it bring? And just be with it for the time that it lasts. The more that we can be with our emotions, the faster that they will move through and get resolved. And that's what I want to talk about today. The power of knowing who you are. And this is something that actually made, I'd have to say, the biggest transformation in my life in how I relate to myself. Because just like everybody, I had this negative self-talk, and mine was so bad that it had me packed into a little box, like a 2x2 box where I felt so confined. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what to do. I was completely lost. And I realized that when situations would happen, and this is for everybody, when situations happen, we have these feelings that arise, and then the brain kicks in and it decides whether it's good or bad, and it brings meaning to what's happening. And it's that interpretation of the brain that creates the emotion. And then we have the emotion of having this was a great experience or it was a bad experience. And the more that we think about something, the more emotion it creates. Now, I want to share something very interesting about emotion. Emotion is energy in motion. It's an energy that the body creates to create action. So when we have an emotion of, oh my God, I'm super excited, let's do this, we move into action to fulfill on taking part of this thing that we just decided. And even if it's a negative emotion like anger, then there's a rise of emotion and you want to be physical. You want to, punch a wall or a pillow or or someone. And and we need to there's an energy that rises and we want to take action. And if we don't take action, then this emotion that we've just created stays in our energy field. An emotion, although we can't see it, it is an energy, and the energy is, if it's not released, it stays in our body. Now, imagine this emotion. An emotion it wants to move us into action, so it's an agitation. It's vibrating, it's active, it wants us to move. And if we're not taking action, this becomes an irritant. It's in our field and it becomes an irritant. And the more that our thoughts are active, the more that the emotion is being created. And it goes beyond our coping mechanisms and we start to go into anxiety. Anxiety, it's too much. This emotion is an agitation and it becomes too much. And so there's a lot of this. So what can we do to help our emotions, to help our mind, is to, first of all, figure out what is the mind thinking about so much that is unresolved? Why is it agitate? Why is it creating emotion? The other thing is do something with the emotion. Go for a walk, have a conversation with someone, journal. These are different ways to provide an outlet. And there's many other ways to provide an outlet. And I go deeper in this in my in my coaching program. But for right now, those two things, understand why the thought is, what are you thinking about? What is unresolved about it? And see if you can resolve it. And for the emotion, take an action. There are many different strategies for that. But I started by saying knowing who you are makes a huge difference. And it does. When the negative self-talk kicks in, it tends to be personal. It tends to be around, I'm not good enough or I'm not lovable. And that's a big one. And see if it's at the stem of a lot of the disputes that happen or the disagreements, that I'm not lovable. So there's something there. But that's just a story. That's just a story. And I discovered that I am not all the stories that my mind created. And the power came when I discovered that I can create myself in any way I want to be. And that in that moment, when I started defining who I am versus the story that keeps hitting on me, I was able to say, no, this is just a story. This is not who I am. And I would connect with who I am for myself. And that is when everything changed. Because the story does not have any power. You have the power. You have the power to choose. So I highly recommend that you take some time and think about, how do you define yourself? Because in knowing how you define yourself, then you can overcome the negative self-talk, the fear, the deep fear of not being enough, not being lovable. And the more that you define yourself, the more you become aware of what you need to do. Because in the reverse, if you don't know who you are, you won't know what to do. So the more that you know who you are, then it becomes clear who you are for yourself and in the world. And then it's clear as to what actions you need to take. And that's where purpose comes. And so I'd love to hear how you're hearing my message here, but yeah, defining who you are for yourself is so powerful. And the reason why I felt compelled to share this with you today is because in the last week, yes, my clients are dealing with things, but for me in my personal practice, I have been guided, getting this clarity as to who I am in my connection with source, the universal life energy, nature, however you want to call it. I'm there's a something that is percolating inside of me that's really strong, and it's I don't know if it's taking me to a new level of awareness in who I am for myself. And that is where the power lies. Because when you know who you are, when you can define, stand in your power, no one could push you over. No one could influence you or deceive you or manipulate you, because you know the truth of who you are. And I hope this is helpful to you. And I invite you to stay connected, like, subscribe to my channel, and there'll be more to come in terms of how can we empower ourselves as we move forward, because there's a lot happening. I always said 2025 is the year of transformation. So buckle up and know who you are, and life will be a lot smoother. So have a wonderful day and stay tuned for more.